There it goes. All right. Hello, world. We are just waiting for Mike to join us here, so he's just working on dialing in. Sometimes Zoom is not our favorite person. Hey, Katie, what's up? Katie Jordan, Chris Bro. How's it going, Chris? Saw that you guys went to a David Byrne show the other night. Fantastic. You're so cool. Nazim, I'm going to be in Sicily in March. I'm on someone else's tour, but it'll be so fun. Hey, Josh, welcome to the party. Hello, Facebook. We're now streaming live on Facebook. Ding, ding, ding. We're just waiting for Mike Vardy to join us soon. We're having some technical difficulties, as one does. The dates, I think it's the 19th or the 20th for like 8 days in Syracuse, and then Mount Etna, and then I forget where else. So it's going to be super duper awesome. Let's see, we're just waiting for Mike Vardy. Come on, Mike. Mike. He's working on getting in here. Everybody say a Zoom prayer for Mike, because it took me half an hour to get in today. I don't know what was going on. It's so frustrating. Ooh, gelato. That sounds good. I'm just going to rub my face in some gelato. Are you kidding? Heck yes. Yes, Zoom prayer. I know. Oh, he's on an island? What island is he on? Tell me more. Mike, there he is. I see his face. Excellent.
Yeah, that's weird. I got kicked off the call.
It's been very, very funky today. I don't know what's going on with Zoom. Welcome. Hello.
It didn't even let me know. I'm like sitting there going, oh, I'm wondering where everybody is. Okay, I'm like, wait a minute.
Hi.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
You look so professional with your microphone. Do you do this for a living?
A little bit.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Mike, it's my first time meeting you, but I know Katie on my team knows you already, so I feel like we're already family. And thank you so much for joining Lately Live. Welcome everyone to Lately Live. We made it. Thank you, Zoom. The Zoom prayers worked. Nazim, you did it. So Lately Live is a 30-minute convo. We picked some incredible, amazing person today. It's Mike Vardy. And we're going to have a lively chat about the thing he's the most expert on, which is productivity. So quick background on Mike. He's an author, a speaker, a podcaster, a productivity and time management strategist, and he's founder of Productivityist. Look at my enunciation. It's hard to say.
You got it. You nailed it on the first go. That's very rare.
I practiced. His magical mission is to help folks stop doing productive and start being productive. So we're going to talk about what that means. I love that. He's also written and published blogs, books, ebooks. He's the former managing editor at Lifehack. He's written for the HuffPost, lots of other outlets. He's appeared on stage at South by, TEDx, Victoria. He's given lots and lots of productivity workshops to help share his magical skill. And he's not only been a podcaster on his own show, but on lots of other shows as well. So welcome, Mike, and thank you for being our guest. I mean, hooray.
Thank you for having me, Kate. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, all right. So first, let's just start with the obvious question. I feel like it is the being versus doing. Like, what does that mean?
So when I thought about that phrase initially, when I was putting things together for Productivityist, I think what happens is we spend a lot of time checking off boxes that we either don't give much thought to and may not need to be checked off at all. We're just basically spending a lot of time just kind of trying to get as much done as possible without actually thinking if those things are either worth doing at all or have the value that they need to have for us to have a great impact in the work that we do, whether it's on business, the front of business, or the front of life, And so because we live in this culture of speed and efficiency and, 10Xing and all that stuff, which is what I love about the term, lively, is like, I'd rather be lively than hustle. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes down to the idea of doing productive versus being productive, doing is just, it's like reckless or ruthless productivity. It's this idea of just doing things for the sake, whereas being productive is a reasoned approach to productivity. Like, how do I, let me look at my to-do list or the commitments that I have and really be take a beat, take, 30 30 seconds to just say, okay, is this the thing that I either need to do or want to do, or is it just something that I ought to do, which is kind of this thing that we haven't really given much thought to. So it's much better to be a human being than a human doing, right? So that's kind of where that also came into play. So that to me, and a lot of the tools out there allow us to kind of live that being productive lifestyle if we choose to. If we take some time to sit back and say, hey, let's take the 30 minutes or, you know, the hour over the course of a couple of days to set something up and future-proof it, then we can focus our energies and our attention, because that's really what productivity is. It's not time is such a fluid, unmanageable mess in a lot of ways, right? Because it moves on whether we want it to or not. I mean, you know, there is no such thing as now, because technically, even though we could say right now I'm doing this, it's already happened. I mean, there's a book called The Order of Time by Carlo Rovelli. If you're like a science nerd, you read that book, your brain's going to go, he says time is ignorance. So, I mean, there's this real fascinating. So if you focus on attention, right, and you focus on intention, which is what I believe productivity is, the marriage of intention plus attention, then you're going to spend more time doing the right things, which means you are being productive.
So one of the things you just said as you were describing that was this idea of like doing what we ought to do versus like what's actually, you know, necessary and therefore productive. And I think that's something that, you know, just to take it into the marketing realm a little bit, that marketers are, anyone's guilty of, but marketers are especially guilty of, and forgetting that there's an objective, there should be an objective for every little word you write, every activity you do, and to really make sure that that's part of your focus. So help me understand how we can be better at really just that simple thing, like, which is, you know, I guess it's staying on task might be the simplified way, but I feel like there's probably some more beautiful way you might say that.
So I think one of the things that we often do is we tend to work, number one, we work by project. That's the way we're taught to work, right? You know, it's a very objective thing. You have this marketing plan, or you have this specific marketing initiative. That's a project, right? And what a lot of people do is, again, taking that time, taking a beat to break down a project to its smallest particles. Now, what's interesting is for someone who's really, you know, adept at marketing and has done this for a long time, or adept at anything, they may not have to break it down to the smallest particles that, say, I would, because I'm not a marketer, right? So I might have to really like go to the granular level. And what's interesting is when you look at, say, productivity practices and books and things like that, some people say, you know, David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done, is famous saying that if it takes more than one step, it's not a task, it's a project, which is technically true, right? A task is a single thing to do. But a lot of people, from a personal standpoint, will say, like, going grocery shopping. That's just, for some people, that's just a task. It's a thing you do. But if you really break it down, like if you were teaching when you first learned how to grocery shop, that was a project. When you were first learning how to do laundry, that was a project. If you didn't break that down and you didn't separate your whites from your darks, you could end up with pink whites, right? You know what I mean? So I think, this. Right. So I think that when you transfer that to the professional world, and you have this idea of, okay, this is something I've either never done before, or I want to make sure that I don't miss anything, that things don't fall through the cracks, or I'm going to delegate this stuff. You have to look at a project and break it down to smaller particles. To that end, the other thing is because we're so used to working by project that we don't look at our to-do list in any other way than sequentially. So, you know, from top to bottom, or by date, because a date is objective. It's due on this date, right? We are meeting at this time. We knew both to be here at this time, which is not now, but, you know, nonetheless, instead of looking at different ways to work subjectively. So this is when we can work by what I call by like modality, right? So you can say, all right, let me look at this project. Let me break it down to its smallest particles. And then let's look at the to-do list by, okay, I'm going to be going into Microsoft Excel. What are all the things I can do in Excel, which spans multiple projects, right? What are all the things I can do when I go into social media? So then you're going into social media mode or Excel mode, or you can take this and transfer this to, let's say we're going to be working with a person. Like, let's say, you know, I have to go talk to you about something, Kate. Instead of me coming back to you 14 times in a day about different things because I'm going down my list, hey, I'm going to be going in to talk to Kate about something. I'm going into Kate mode. What are all the things I can talk to Kate about? And this transfers
I
to
love
things
Kate
like,
mode.
right. Well, you know what I mean? Like, because you're not a project, right? Because no one wants to be called a project. But, but the other thing is you could say, well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be called a project.
No, no, no.
But nonetheless, like time too, we can say, okay, let me
Sure.
look at all these tasks and see all my 5-minute tasks. So therefore, instead of trying to, struggle through a deep task, knowing that you have this meeting 30 minutes from now, you can say, hold on, let me see how many 5-minute tasks I can do before I go in the meeting. Oh yes. And then I have another meeting 30 minutes after that meeting ends. So instead of digging into email or other things that will pull us away from our intentions, pay attention to the to-do list and go, okay, let me look at all my 5-minute tasks. And the same thing applies to things like energy. I call these the categories of mode-based work, which are theme-based, resource, energy, activity, time. So you can look at your to-do list that way. And then what you're doing is breaking your project down into manageable chunks that allows you to get as close to multitasking as possible, because then you're moving multiple projects forward by working that way. And then if you have to, you can work by project when you need to. When crunch time comes into play, you're like, okay, I got to dig into this project and go. You now have 3 different ways to work, which is a much better way to operate because our brains operate by mode anyway.
Yeah, so you just validated something that I do and have felt guilty about, which is the 5-minute tasks, right? So like there might be something on, I have a lot of lists, a lot of people do as well, I have different kinds of lists. There's no less than, there's 8 sticky notes in front of me right now, by the way, and a pad, and then all my online stuff too, right? But I get this overwhelm of the list itself, like most people do as well. And there will be like a large task that might take 2 hours. That's actually is the most important thing I get done. It literally, other people's jobs depend on me getting this thing done. And I'll put it off because I won't have the time to do it. And so instead just nip away at those other tasks that I can, just so I have some sense of productivity. Because otherwise I feel like, less human.
Yeah, you're doing quantitative productivity instead of qualitative productivity. It's like that classic inbox 0 idea, right? Like I got my email down from 42 to 0, and they don't tell you the contents of those emails are 12 of them are newsletters. 6 of them are like the quick correspondence back and forth because there's that one person who just loves to email back and forth. So then all of a sudden the quality of that productivity is lessened because you didn't spend that time. What is that? Give me an example of that large task, because I'd like to challenge to see if it is a task in and of itself.
Sure. So they're always the same. It's something with writing. So I like to write, but I need a lot of headspace to write. I have to do research as I'm writing, and I compile a lot of ideas, and then I can magic it. But it's the compiling and the thinking that takes me a while, and I can't have any disturbances.
So in those instances, so this is where theme-based modes work really well, and the idea of theming your time, which is another element of time crafting that I talk about. So what I tell people to do is look at their days and see if they can give their day an overarching focus, a theme. Now, in some people can't do that, and they immediately have a bias shows up. There's no way I can theme, and then I start asking them when to do things like laundry and household chores and stuff like that. And invariably, it comes up that they do it on a Saturday or a Sunday. To which I then say, well, you are theming a day. You're theming Saturday. So just own it. So you try it with another day. Like, for example, today is my video day. So today is actually a perfect day for me to do it. It's called my looking day, actually, because I broadened it a little bit. So I will look at a lot of things. It doesn't mean I only do looking tasks, like in the looking mode all day, because clearly I have other things that I need to do, but it has my overarching focus. So when you have a daily theme, it gives you this ability to kind of, when you wake up in the morning, not go, what am I going to do today? Which is a huge open-ended question, right?
Sure.
Instead, you're like, okay, what day is it? Oh, it's Tuesday. Tuesday's my looking day. Okay, great. What looking tasks am I going to do? And it also gives place for those tasks to land, right? Now, I do the same thing as you do. I write a lot. I've just finished writing a book. It's coming out in June called Time Crafting, a better way to get the right things done. Really excited about it. And so I have to write every single day because I'm a writer, right? So instead of using a daily theme for that, I use what's called a horizontal theme. And this is I would say it's similar to like time blocking, where you block off a period of time, but I don't get as specific as time blocking, because the problem is that you will have things that come up. So I don't say write this thing for this time. Instead, I call it like deep work or making. So that way my brain has at least a bit of flexibility, because your brain doesn't like to be told exactly what to do. It just doesn't. It doesn't like, especially because you can make up tons of excuses. Like you said, well, I don't feel productive, so I haven't got a lot of these things done yet. So I have to and because your task really, when you say writing, you said there's planning, there's all this stuff. Those are that's a project. A writing task for you is a project. So you could, number one, break that down over the course of a period of time. So, and again, you work from your certainties with this. So if you know that you're better in the mornings for these sort of things, then what you'll want to do is say, okay, from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, or 9 to whatever it needs to be, that's my writing time, which means I have to future-proof my calendar so no one can book appointments with me during that time. Like, set it up, right? But if you know that between 9 and 10, you're going to be having on-calls and stuff like that, then that's a terrible time for you to do it, because you're already setting yourself up for failure. For me, I'm a night owl. So my best time to write is actually, oddly enough, either between, generally the thinking part happens in the early afternoon when I'm feeling a little bit more like good to go. Or it's honestly between like 11 and midnight, or 11 and 1 a.m. Because number one, I'm still at my best. I used to do comedy. So that would be the time you'd go up and perform. So my brain is just wired to do that. But number two, I know I'm not going to get interrupted. Nobody's going to email me between 11 and 1. And if they do, you know what? They can wait. Right. So for different people, it's different things. And all you need to do is set up, like for you, one boundary, just one horizontal theme for writing, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Sunday, if that's what you want to do. And then you call it writing time, or making time, or creating time. And then anything that you've labeled with that making mode, creating mode, or writing mode, it has a place to land. So then you don't feel guilty, or, oh, I didn't feel really productive. Well, you have a place for that stuff to go. And over time, because it takes time to build this stuff, your brain knows naturally where to go during that time of day. And then it's just a matter of willpower, perseverance, and showing up, and knowing that that's where it lands. So then you don't have this guilt of like, oh, I didn't do my writing today. Oh, well, that's right. It's not 11 o'clock at night yet. So who cares? Right? Like I'll get there. Right? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I mean, so this is better than therapy, by the way. And and a question somebody was asking sort of ties into the question that I had, which is, so everybody has interruptions all day. I mean, I feel like my personal life is a total nightmare of interruptions, and it can't be helped at all, because there's employees, there's customers, there's investors, and there's many fires to be put out all day long. So I find it very, very difficult to even maintain my calendar, which is usually set a couple weeks in advance. And then someone was asking about family, and I was thinking that there's some similar unpredictability here. When it comes to defining this kind of time in your lives. So, I mean, for those of us who, and it's not because I don't want to, or I don't understand the value of organization, and I used to be personally a very organized, methodical person, and I had to stop in this way for these reasons. So like, help us hopeless souls.
So here's the thing, is that I call any interruption. So people are like, there's no way I could theme my day. Like, for example, today, like I said, is my looking day, which means when my day ends at 3 o'clock, because I'm home, I've got 2 kids. I work from home. My son is 10 years old. I'm picking him up from school. It's snowing today too, so I'm probably not going to get to come home right away, because it hardly ever snows. Ask Katie, she'll tell you. It hardly ever snows in the Lower Mainland or in BC where we live. So it's a novelty here. So knowing that, I'm like, all right, well, I guess my day is definitely ending at 3. So when the way I look at it is, you're always going to have what I call abstractions. So for example, this today, you and I having this conversation is an abstraction in my schedule. It's not a regular meeting. It's not so knowing that gives me the ability to go, okay, when I come out of it, what am I going to do? So when I'm done talking today to all of you, I'm not going to go, now what do I do? I know that it's my looking time. I'll go look at that. Now, keep in mind, I mean, I have my list of weekly stuff here. I use paper. Oh, this is just the paper stuff. I use digital tools for the long-term stuff, and I put it on paper because I don't want the ping to pull me away, right? I get enough pings. I don't, and the pings inside of those tools are not pings from other people. They're generally pings from me saying, hey, don't forget
Sure.
this, don't forget that. Because, you know, I want to do a lot of things. So I will look at this, and because my Tuesday says looking, I know that I need to fill out my Now Your calendar for the video I'm shooting. I need to look at Ecamm for live streaming. And there's lots of things I've listed here. And I did that during my planning day, because then I've set this up in advance. Because if I tried to make that plan right now, forget it. But to the point about kids and family and stuff, I don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's a terrible term, because balance indicates that you're off kilter in one way or shape or form. I believe in work-life harmony, right? And harmony, think about like a song that you listen to. There's a melody and then there's harmonies, right? And sometimes when you add just the right amount of harmony to it, it sounds amazing. But then sometimes there's way too many harmonies and you're like, what the heck is going on? So it's about when I do my looking tasks for today, it's not just work, it's home stuff. So my son and I will likely watch some superhero shows tonight together because it's my looking day, right? So that's like, hey, what do you want to do? If I have a light bulb to replace in my house, right? And I look and I'm like, oh, that needs to be done. I don't replace it right then and there. I will go, okay, well, today's not the day. I mean, I might do it, but I will actually delay it to the day that I know, because it's not the most important thing to do right now. I mean, we have these time-based mindsets and these task-based mindsets, but changing a light bulb isn't as simple as, you know, putting a light bulb in and say, do I have a light bulb? Let's go find one. Where is it? Da, da, da. All of a sudden you've spent like 15, 20 minutes changing a light bulb.
So true.
Right? When my son just wants to play, right? So, you know, it's about, like, that's why people get up early, because they want to be ahead of their kids, or it's why they stay up late because they want to be, you know, they want to have that quiet time. That's kind of why I do creating later on. But the idea of looking at your list, not just as a vantage point from work, but from home, can help with that. You're going to get interrupted. We know this, but you can set up boundaries that are going to work for you. That's why productivity is personal. So if all you did after this call was to say, hey, between 9 and 10, or between whatever that hour of the day, block it off and own it. Because if you don't respect your boundaries, nobody else will. And just say, because you know how much is 1 hour of your day? A day is 24 hours, 16 waking hours. It's 1/16 of your day that you're giving to that particular thing that you've identified as the most important, right? So if you can't give yourself that, which is what, less than 10% of your day to you, right? That's where you have to start thinking. So when you think about it from those vantage points, you actually not only solve a problem for yourself, but you start to see where the other problems may lie. Like there's this person that constantly interrupts you. Hey, we don't do that during this time. And you just, it's not like a quick fix. I couldn't tell you today, like, do this and all your problems will be solved. You have to start with 1 degree, right? And maybe the 1 degree is that writing time, because when that opens up, then it's going to allow you to, you know, have more impact and things like that. So same thing with kids. When I'm done at 3 today, from 3 till 10 p.m., I'm theirs. That's the general rule on especially Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Mondays and Thursdays, my wife's home, so I get to work till 5, right? So, you know, I can't give you the magic answer, but what I can tell you is if you're writing down things on paper, I don't have a pen with me right now, but you know how you've got this list that says action, like your to-do list, create a second column, and at the top put M for mode, because every action requires a mode. So every time you write something down, you don't have to write the mode right away, but leave a space for that. And maybe for you, it's going to be energy level. So if it's energy level, either put high energy or low energy, or put an up arrow or a down arrow. I mean, that's simple. Then you can look at that. Or the time. If you want to work by time, 5, 15, 30, and just circle that. And then you can start it's just about making those simple changes. Don't worry about the digital tools, because you can easily take that and transfer it over to like an Asana or a Trello, because really modes are just used as tags or labels in those task apps, really. So that to me is the key, is just to understand you can't do it all at once, and then start to set up some boundaries, because frameworks foster freedom. If you don't have a framework, then you're going to be like, and honestly, when people say there's no way that I can do this, that's a bias. That's a confirmation bias. This is the information I have. It's always been this way. It will never change. And when you work in marketing, marketing always, like, marketing has that, you know, there's the 22 laws, but there are lots of innovations around those laws, right? But there's boundaries there. And so you can work with those. So I challenge you to just try the same.
So thank you, by the way. So, and as you're talking, it's occurring to me that very much of this is there's a perception involved here, right? So some folks were asking about the tools that you would like. And I mean, I haven't asked you that question because I feel like no tool in the world can solve the problem of the perception if you don't solve that
focus
first.
Focus on the app within first. Focus on the
Focus
app
on the
within.
app within.
Then
On the
from
app
there,
within.
right. Copyright 2020, Mike Vardy.
Yeah.
But seriously, like you could use Asana, OmniFocus, a paper planner, a bullet journal. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is if you go garbage in, garbage out, right? Like, so you have to have, like, I love all my tools that I use. And in my membership site that we're building in beta right now, there are videos that I have, their tutorials. They'd be like how to time craft in Todoist, how to time craft in Trello, how to time craft in Time Hero, in Marvin. There are so many productivity apps out there. Outlook even, right? People love to use Outlook for that. There are so many tools out there. But again, you could be the best golfer in the world and use mediocre to middling clubs and still beat the new golfer that's got the most expensive clubs on the market, right? It's about having the fundamentals down. And honestly, again, I grabbed a pen. If you literally just put this action and then left a column for a mode, and I can share with you if you want the like I can find a way to give you, like, I have a free PDF that just says the 5 categories of mode-based work. I can arrange that so that people can look at it and go, oh, this is it, because I can't tell you what modes to use. I can't tell you what is high energy for you or what is low energy. And honestly, the 5-minute rule is great because the 2-minute rule that getting things done applies. Nothing takes, 2 minutes is such a challenging number to hit, especially with so many things pulling our attention. I think 5 minutes is, you can still have some of Parkinson's law take effect with 5 minutes, because if it's a 2-minute task that grows to 5 minutes, so be it. But I think that just starting here and then going from there, and of course, I'm a big believer in journaling too. So I think journaling can help along the way as well, because, frankly, if you're journaling, then you can actually see where you've been. It's like the captain's log. It's the captain's log in Star Trek. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going. Here's where we were. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going. That's all really a journal is.
So in the last 2 minutes, my question for you.
I know there's a lot, eh?
No, it's so great. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts going, and I'm thinking offsite. We need him to come to our offsite, or we'll come to you. The question is maybe a silly one, but I heard that you picked 3 words to focus on for the new year, and I'm just curious what they are. Actually,
interestingly enough, I've stopped using the 3 words. Now, here's a reason. There's 2 reasons. Number one, Chris, by the way, I love the strategy. Chris Brogan does it. He pioneered it. I think it's a fantastic, and I used it up until last year, really. Well, middle of last year, because I start my year in September. So I guess technically for me, it's this year, but for you guys, it would be like, late last year. Instead, I use what I call the annual axiom now. And the other reason I've done this is because in my book, I wanted to have that yearly thing that was mine and not someone else's. So, I mean, I still think what Chris does is amazing. Him and I just chatted a couple of weeks ago, and I told him.
I love his books. Yeah, they're 2 of my favorite books.
Yeah, Freaks Shall Inherit the Earth is a great. I don't know if you've read Freaks Will Inherit the Earth, but it's one of his lesser known books.
I should.
You should. Okay. It's one of those books that it's like, Gretchen Rubin has The Happiness Project. Everybody knows that, and they know the 4 tendencies. But frankly, the 4 tendencies is the book that everybody should pick up if they want to be able to do that stuff. But anyway, so I do what's called the annual axiom now, which is kind of like a slogan or a motto or a phrase. And it could be like, for example, I'm a sports fan, and I'm no longer, as of yesterday, a fan of the Houston Astros. I was a fan, and I kind of saw.
I'm in San Francisco right now, by the way.
Yeah.
not by choice, but
no. I was. So the Astros just got caught, and I mean, rightly so. They received punishment for cheating and all that stuff. So I've literally gotten rid of all my Astros stuff, and I'm back to being a fan of the Blue Jays. I'm going home, right? But yesterday, so their motto was never settle, right? When they won the World Series, and then they had one called Take It Back when they lost it. But there was one yesterday. I watched the LSU Clemson game. Even though I'm in Canada, I like watching football. And the slogan for the LSU Tigers was "One team, one heartbeat." And I'm like, oh, that's so, those kind of things, they galvanize a group of people around it, right? So if you come up with your own, and mine this year is whatever it takes, no matter what. And I actually lessened it to.
Okay, so you're going for like a slogan, whatever it takes, no matter what.
So the reason mine is that is because whatever I take on, and that's what the annual axiom is supposed to do. It's supposed to help you choose better projects, better initiatives, make better choices every day. And I believe in that better than New Year's resolutions, because I think resolutions over a 366-day period are often really ambitious. Number one, you tend to fail by the second week in February. 83% of New Year's resolutions have failed. So they've failed. And interestingly enough, the Avengers, and I'm a big comic book geek, as you could probably see behind me.
Yeah.
The Avengers slogan for their end game was whatever it takes. So mine is whatever it takes, no matter what. So anything I take on, I'm going to apply whatever it takes, no matter what, to get it done. And if I can't do that, guess what? I won't do it. Doesn't mean I will never do it. It means it goes into my digital tool for something to look at when I plan my next year, which is August, which is my planning month. And I've just released, if you go, I've released one of the things that happened this year is because we've turned over to a new decade, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you could argue either way that next year, but we're in the 20s now.
Right, yeah.
Is I created a free opt-in called the Decade Designer, because we often—
I've heard about this.
Yeah, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10, right? That's a Tony Robbins phrase. I'll totally attribute that to him. But I literally have 10 pages, and you can do theming, and you can map out your whole 10 years if you want, or as many as you want. And then my web guy, who's also my graphic designer, he's designing a big poster that are the same size as my Now Year calendars. That's going to have all 10 years on it that you can frame and you can color it in. It's like art. So I'm a big believer in the year. With time crafting, I believe you can some people want to either start with today.
Is your wife this organized? I just have to know. She's like your yin yang over there.
She's my yin yang. Like she's organized, but just to the point that she has to be. Like when we plan things, I would plan meals for 10 days. She'd plan meals for 3. So there's like that,
okay,
right?
Well, that was my other question. I wanted to know, like, at home, do you do, like, you know how from the Seinfeld episode where like the massage person doesn't give a massage outside of the office?
My wife's an acupuncturist. She does give me acupuncture, so there is that. But I will not give it. She's partner she's the admin part of the business, so she handles all okay, you get this. She handles that stuff, but she understands that's where theming had to come from, because I wanted to make sure with a busy family that, okay, this is for example, if we want to go see a movie, the kids now don't go, can we go see a movie tonight? The kids go, can we see a movie on Saturday? Because Saturday is family day.
Saturday's
so
the night.
The default becomes yes. So now that they know this, it's like, okay, well, yeah,
they
sure.
gotcha.
I mean, and actually Saturday and Sunday had to flip every once in a while because of weather. Like it rains here in Victoria quite a bit. So initially Saturday was family and Sunday was planning. And then on the way to the airport one day when my wife was taking me I was going to an event to speak, she said, is there any way that we could, depending on how the week's weather goes, that you could make Saturday planning and Sunday? And I said, sure, no problem. Because with theming, the tasks just migrate with the day. So I'm not looking at dates nearly as much. Dates come, if I'm looking at my planning day, planning is first, then the dates, right? So I was like, yeah, sure. So it's lowered the friction. But yeah, I mean, the thing about time crafting,
it's amazing.
You just take it piece by piece. So if you were going to start today, start working by mode. Start with this list. Like start saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to start putting that mode column and put high energy, low energy, and base it on whether I'm a morning person or a night person. Or you know what? I need to count the minutes of the day and I want to track that. I'm going to pick 3 different time increments, decide how long each task takes, and use that. Like it's bit by bit, because the reason I call it time crafting is that you're never done. You're crafting all the time. Like no actor says, well, that's it. I'm done.
It's a work in progress. Yes.
Right. It's always a work in progress. And time is moving on. So we might as well craft it to the way we want, because we only get so much of it. So let's craft it the way we want it to be.
Yes. So on that note, my current mode is late because I have to get into an Uber and go across town, but it's very hard for me to not keep listening to you, because this really is, I predicted that this would be the most valuable 30 minutes of my year, and it certainly is so far, and I suspect it will be for some time. So Mike, we are so very glad to know you, and that you took the time to give us your knowledge today is really super money. I haven't seen our chat channel so chatty in some time. So yeah, you're
Go Tigers.
you're sparking a lot of ideas here. So people can find you at productivityist.com. Is that correct?
Yep. And if you live in and around the Lower Mainland or near Vancouver, or you're wanting to come to Vancouver for a good reason, I'm hosting a live event on February 29th, the extra day we get this year, and it's called The Big Ready. If you go to thebigready.com, we've already announced 3/4 of the featured guests that are going to be there, including Mark and Angel Chernoff from Mark and Angel Hack Life, New York Times bestselling authors. And we got another American coming up to speak too. So I'm really excited. It's a really cool event called The Big Ready. So if you go to thebigready.com and you want to come hang out with me personally and a bunch of other cool people, I know Katie will be there. So yeah, it'll be awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
I might want to be there too, actually. So Katie, we'll have to talk about that. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Lately Live, you can get more information about what we do at www.trylately.com. And we've got some really excellent guests coming for you here in the next few months. But if you ever have any suggestions, feel free to make them. And rock on. Have a great, is it Tuesday? I think it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
All right. Let's rock this Tuesday. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.